Some say independent candidate Christy Myhouse may take some Republican votes, and others believe the same may be true for Ross, that she may sway some Democratic voters over to the Green Rainbow Party.
Kaplan says he's excited for this opportunity because this is the first time the Farber Archives will bring in an exhibit originating from outside of the Brandeis campus. While many of these letters are 17 years old, Hill says her discoveries about human nature are still relevant today, most recently with the presidential race.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for the Worcester News Tonight 10 o'clock update. I'm Marsha MacEachern in for Julie Tremmel. Well, the budget debate is heating up at Worcester City Hall. Mayor Tim Murray says they need to make a final vote by the end of the month. Tonight, councilors and concerned citizens discuss the public safety section of the budget. Billy Breaux of the Maine South Alliance for Public Safety says they want the city administration to fill 18 vacant spots in the police force as soon as possible. The Department of Public Works has been working very hard today clearing off these roads, and many people are taking this storm in stride. The Worcester Fire Department dive team has come a long way with technology since it started. For example, this is the new full-face underwater communication mask. They have 16 of them, worth about $1,500 each. Glass would like to settle with Rocher for $50. However, Rocher wants the case dismissed. He pled not guilty today in court, and this case will continue on August 9th. In Dudley, Massachusetts, Marsha MacEachern, NECN. 92-year-old Guarino Batista of Shrewsbury has some advice to share. Don't trust just anyone who comes to your door.
Be careful. Be careful because today is not like you used to 60 years ago.
On Tuesday evening, a woman posing as a home health aide knocked on Batista's door. She told him she was there to care for him and showed some hospital identification. Health aides regularly visit Batista's home, but he did not recognize this woman. Eventually, he let her in. They had an argument when she told him to go to bed.
She opened the bed sheets. She said, "You go to bed." I said, "Look, I told you, you go home, and I'm not going to bed." I was getting mad.
Batista threatened to press an emergency button he wears around his neck, but the woman snatched it. She grabbed his pants from a chair that contained his wallet and ran away. Inside the wallet was a photograph of him with 2 German soldiers he captured during World War II. He carried it for 61 years.
That picture means a lot to me, you're right.
Shrewsbury police are still searching for a suspect described as a Hispanic or white female, around 30 years old with short brown hair and between 5'8" and 5'10". Police say they're making headway with some leads. In the meantime, elder advocates like Sharon Yeager at the Shrewsbury Council on Aging are reminding seniors to know their health care visitors.
Follow-up is the biggest thing, and knowing who's coming when and who that person is and what agency they're from and what they're there to do.
If someone comes to your door and they say they're a home health aide but you don't recognize them, elder advocates say it's okay if you leave them there while you go inside and call your agency to make sure they're reputable.
Anybody who has been properly trained and is with a good agency will know that, and they won't be offended by that.
As for Batista, he wants his picture back, and he doesn't want this to happen to anyone else.
If I was 10 years younger, she wouldn't have walked out of here.
Marsha MacEachern, Worcester News Tonight. If you ever wondered what 25,000 letters might look like, just ask Brandeis professor Anita Hill. She estimates there are about that many in her basement. Hill's been storing the bulk of these letters for 17 years, following sexual harassment testimony she delivered against Clarence Thomas during the Supreme Court Senate confirmation hearings in 1991. She recently began paging through them for the first time.
Initially started reading the letters. It was very emotional. Very emotional. I mean, it was so emotional that at the end of the day, I'd be just exhausted from just trying to work through all of the feelings that I had around those hearings.
But Hill has put her emotions into perspective in the name of research, spurred by a visiting fellowship at Wellesley College. She's reading each letter, supportive or not, to see what she might discover about human nature.
I think a lot of people probably would have assumed that I would receive letters from people talking about sexual harassment. But I also got letters from people who talked about civic participation and the need for better gender representation in government, the need for us to deal with issues of race as a society.
People of all demographics wrote to Hill, and a common theme she's found so far is that people often look beyond the opinions of leaders, whether political or religious, to reach their own decisions on issues.
And the information doesn't just include lining up behind your party. They go out, they read newspapers, at least in 1991, and I have no reason to believe it's not true today. They read newspapers, they collect the information, they watch the television very carefully.
While many of these letters are 17 years old, Hill says her discoveries about human nature are still relevant today, most recently with the presidential race.
Certainly they listen to leadership, but they're not compelled to follow partisan leadership. They talk to their neighbors, they talk to their friends, they talk to family members to sort these issues out. And that's the kind of thing that I think can happen in this election.
It's a lesson in civic engagement that Hill says is encouraging. In 1991, many people didn't just sit back and watch the hearings, they were compelled to write. She received another large surge of letters the following year during the presidential election.
Not only do they talk about the hearings and talk about politics and become engaged in that way, they carried that energy into 1992 and got more involved when it came to voting and supporting candidates. And that's really, really exciting.
So far, Hill has read a few thousand letters and is pledging to get to all of them. She may publish her findings in a book, but for now, her main focus is to figure out how people process issues and how they decide when it's time to take action.
These letters can teach us a lot, and I want to absorb as much of it as I can.